All over the Milky Way galaxy, many species would come together to form within their unified capital known as the Citadel. Whilst living here, the original species of the Solarians and the Asari would set up trade links, discuss political situations, hit back against other rebellious species, and just generally try and build their worlds for the better. However, as these species continue to grow, they would go on to find another one, known as the Rachni, and be locked into a horrific war that would see the Citadel forces get almost wiped out by this hive-mind insect-like species from the planet soon. As the Citadel got more and more desperate to find their solution to this problem, they would also encounter a new battle-hardened species that would be known as the Krogan from the world of Tuchanka. With the help of the Krogan, the Citadel would be able to survive the war and continue to thrive once again. However, with this, tension rose between the Citadel Council species and the Krogan, and would see them go to war against one another due to the overall treatment the Krogan were being put under. This would lead to what would be known as the Krogan Rebellions, and would be something that would shape all of the species' history and define them for years to come. So who are the Krogan? What makes them special? How did they help with the Rachni War? And what triggered the Krogan Rebellions? Well, in today's video, we take a look at the battle-hardened toad-like creatures who would slam you to the ground if they don't like the look of you, and will not hesitate to go to war if they so choose. This is the lore behind the Krogan species of Mass Effect, and the story of the Krogan Rebellions. Krogans are a very ancient species within the Milky Way galaxy, and it is said that they are the longest lived species that is known of. Their world of Tuchanka was an extremely brutal, hostile world from the beginning, and because of its harsh surroundings and atmosphere, this forced the Krogan species into evolving into large creatures with extremely thick skin and eyes at the side of their head, allowing them to see any predators that might be trying to get to them. This also helped the ancient Krogans advance their structures to help their survival. Despite Tuchanka not being known for much tectonic activity, the Krogans built up their architectures with seismic loading techniques to resist things like earthquakes and other forms of vibrations from vehicles that might pass through their cities. Whilst this might seem as a bit questionable as to why the Krogans built their world using this technology, considering there's not many earthquakes happening on Tuchanka, researchers believe that the reason for this was because the Krogans shared this planet with the terrifying apex predator known as Kalros, the mother of the Thresher Moors, who would prowl the land seeking to cause mass destruction to anything in their way. As the ancient Krogans continued to live, they would suffer massive population problems. This was due to predators hunting them down, many different diseases, as well as wars between them all. This would mean that Krogans were very spread out around the land within their small tribes and were able to live relatively well, but still affected by war and other factors killing them. Once they did get to the industrial age, however, this is where the Krogans began to thrive. However, new problems arose with this. As their technology got better, they would be able to fight back against disease and protect themselves from predators all over the land. It almost became too easy for the Krogans to live. Thanks to this, their population grew massively, so much in fact that the land and space now became a huge problem for them. Tuchanka as a planet was massively suffering because of this Krogan expansion, with land being built up with their technology, fauna being depleted, and their birth rate growing more and more year on year. Eventually, as the space started running out for the Krogan, wars once again started amongst themselves as they run out of other targets to fight. Now their warring goals were to take as much land for themselves as possible. By this point, the Krogan were developing their weaponry as well, and an arms race started amongst them all. Whilst technology-wise the Krogan were in their supposed golden age, easily becoming the dominant force on the planet, this would quickly come to an end as the Krogans developed their nuclear weapons and fired them on themselves, causing a nuclear holocaust on Tuchanka. The planet was now in ruin, their population was massively cut down, and ultimately their golden age had come to an end. But despite all of this, the Krogans lived on, but this time were reduced down to primitive warring clans seeking to find habitable land throughout the radiated wasteland of Tuchanka. This would be the way the Krogans would live for many, many years, and their whole society would be founded by these events. Out within the rest of the Milky Way, the Citadel forces within the year 1 CE had sent out a group of Solarian explorers to scout the surrounding areas. In their travels, they would find a nearby mass relay, which was linked to a previously unknown system. Without waiting around, the Solarian explorers would open this relay and travel through it, a decision they would go on to regret. Here they encountered the creatures known as the Rachni, a highly intelligent insect-like species who were capable of using the element known as Element Zero within their technology. The Solarians immediately captured these Rachni and started using them to research Element Zero to help them with their own technological development. This immediately helped the Solarian explorers to reverse engineer the faster-than-light drives of their starships, a huge technological jump that would absolutely revolutionize all of the species within the Citadel. With this faster-than-light technology now being utilized within all of their spaceships, they started to expand out into the rest of the galaxy. But this angered the Rachni as their population and planet's resources were being used for the gain of others. The Rachni immediately hit back, triggering the Rachni Wars between them and the Citadel members of the Solarians and the Asari. As the Rachni hit hard and fast, the Citadel Council tried desperately to make peaceful talks with the Rachni Queens. However, no contact could be made with them as they hid away in their underground nests on the Rachni worlds, which could not be reached at all by any of the species due to how inhospitable their worlds were. The Rachni, because of their hive mind and fearlessness, hit the Council species incredibly hard, and because of the sheer amount of them, the Citadel species were losing badly. With no way for peace talks and their forces losing ground by the day, the Council members needed a solution, and fast, or their extinction would be inevitable. Once again, the Solarians travelled out into the galaxy using their faster-than-light drive, and in their travels would find the world of Tuchanka, and with it, the Krogan species. Almost immediately, the Solarians saw that the Krogans were a fearless, battle-hardened species, as not only were they constantly at war with one another, but they also lived on a planet that had clearly been destroyed through their own handiwork. The Solarians knew they had to get this species in to help them in their war, and with that, immediately culturally uplifted them, handing them brand new technology, weaponry, as well as relocating them to other planets they had captured from the Rachni that were not filled by radiation, toxins, or deadly predators of the Thresher Moors. Not initially telling the Krogans why they were being given all of this, it was soon explained that they were needed to be used as reinforcements within the Rachni Wars. The key reason for why the Krogan were perfect for this was due to how quickly they were able to breed and produce more warriors for the battlefield, with Krogans fully maturing at just the age of 10 years old and hungry for battle. With the amount of Krogans that were there in their forces, the Citadel were now capable of driving back the Rachni forces. And on top of that, due to how the Krogan had evolved as a species to endure harsh planet conditions, they were now able to enter the Rachni planets, endure their environment, and take them out within the Rachni's own territory. As the Krogan charged through the Rachni with their endless reinforcements backing them up, they were finally able to venture to the Rachni's home planet and reach the Queens within their lairs. The Krogan strike the lairs and wiped the Queens out, as well as reclaiming some of the conquered Council worlds. Despite overwhelming losses for the Rachni, they did not want to surrender and continue to hit back against the Krogan. This only fueled the Krogan even more, causing them to completely bombard Soon's cities and detonate powerful bombs within the Rachni's underground nests, completely wiping them out and creating massive sinkholes on the planet's surface. Completely obliterating their foe would usually be against the way of the Citadel Council. However, due to the nature of their enemy and their refusal to surrender, this was seen as the only way to finally end this war once and for all. The year was now 300 CE and the Krogan had officially won the Rachni War for the Citadel Council, with the Rachni being declared as extinct. This wasn't 100% sure by the Council despite this claim, however, and because of this being an unknown, the Council left a listening post within the Rachni's home system to make sure no Rachni lived on and started to rebuild once again. With the war now over thanks to the newly discovered species of the Krogan, the Council also decided to make it a policy that any dormant mass relays that led to undiscovered systems were not to be activated, and if they were, they would feel the full force of the Council's forces, something humanity would learn later in their space exploring years. But for now, the Krogans were the heroes of the day. Their overwhelming forces helped win the Rachni War and save the rest of their species from extinction. They were now in the debt of the Citadel Council and were able to thrive arrive on their newly gifted planets with their brand new technology, as well as being honoured with a statue within the Citadel itself. However, old habits die hard, and now that they have been gifted worlds with a livable atmosphere, the Krogans could begin breeding in their masses again, and taking over the whole of their new planets like they did on Tuchanka. With their numbers on the rise, it would suddenly become clear to the Citadel Council that they might have a new problem on their hands, one of their own doing once again. The Citadel Council were very generous with their gifting of planets to the Krogan to help them repopulate to fuel their war effort. But this came at a cost, something that clearly didn't ever come up in their talks when bringing the Krogan into their army in the first place. The war had now officially come to an end, but there was no stopping the Krogan population, and who could blame them? They had now struck gold with resource-rich lands that were not filled with apex predators that could kill them like they were on Tuchanka. This suddenly became a huge problem for the Council as they saw the Krogans taking up tons of land and began annexing territory from other Citadel species. The Citadel tried to make it clear to the Krogan that whilst they were allowed to have land, they were taken from their allies. But the Krogan, now not at war, started to get aggressive to anyone seen invading their territory. This went unopposed for a bit until the Krogans looked to take over the Asari colony of Lucia. The Council were quick to get involved here, demanding the Krogans leave immediately, but the Krogans outright refused. This caused tension to become extremely heated within the council chambers themselves, with the Krogan overlord Kredak storming out of them, stating that if they wanted their lands back, they would have to try and take them with force. This threat to the council caused war to break out as the council had no other choice, and if they didn't take action now, the Krogan could keep taking land. The council had already set up precautions for this situation, however, and with it put in place a covert operation force called the Office of Special Tactics and Reconnaissance, which housed the Special Task Force along with the Asari Huntresses. The Spectres for the Council immediately hit the Krogans hard with countless strategic strikes on Krogan planets, causing a multitude of problems for them. Whilst for most species these attacks would absolutely ruin them, destroy their numbers and force them into surrendering, the Krogans once again could just repopulate their forces in no time and would just have endless reinforcements to their disposal. With this, the Krogan shook off their attackers' efforts and started hitting back hard and actually turned the tides of war, with victory swaying in their favour. With the council forces being overrun by the endless amounts of Krogans, the council turned to the Turians to see if they could help hit back with their massive fleet, as well as them being a militaristic society. As the Turians got involved in the war, they would go on to set up hidden command centres such as Pinnacle Station, and with it immediately started winning battles against the Krogan forces. This seemed great for the council, and maybe things were changing, but the Krogan were absolutely ruthless and hit back with horrific attacks using asteroids to destroy Turian worlds, making 3 of their planets totally uninhabitable. This attack was horrific on the Turians and was almost certain to ruin their morale, but the Krogans didn't realise that this attack had triggered a new series of events. With an attack of this scale, it triggered a Turian military doctrine that stated, in an event like this, the Turians could not simply defeat the enemy forcing them to surrender, but they would put things in place to stop them from ever becoming a threat to their species again. With this doctrine in motion, the Turians' public opinion was in favour of the war and only helped paint the picture of the Krogans as pure evil creatures that needed to be stopped at all costs, bringing together all of the Turian forces to fight one goal. Whilst this certainly helped the Turian war effort, it still became clear to all of the allied forces that the Krogans would simply not surrender no matter what, and would keep calling in limitless reinforcements. A new plan had to be devised, one that matched the goal of the new Turian doctrine. After countless battles, the Turian High Command got in contact with the Solarians, who during this whole war and during the Rachni War came up with an extremely powerful bioweapon, which they labelled as the Genophage. The idea behind this bioweapon was to essentially reduce the Krogan numbers by infecting their DNA, which would then cause countless stillbirths for the female Krogans, with some fetuses never even reaching that stage of development. To make matters worse for the Krogans, every single cell in every Krogan would be infected infected by it, meaning those trying to counteract it would most likely fail over and over again. This was not meant to really be a sterility plague at the end of the day, and the Solarians never even wanted to use it and believe no one in their right mind would ever actually want to use it either. The only reason for it being made was to use it as just a deterrent. But the Turians, mad with rage at what the Krogans had done to their colonies, took the Genophage and deployed it in the year of 710 CE. Immediately the Krogan numbers started to fall, and with that the Turians immediately pushed their attacks to take out their numbers. With depleting numbers and the Turians turning the tides of war, the Krogans themselves started to seek other ways to hit back, solve their situation, and to try and protect their species from extinction. One female Krogan warlord known as Denok Shiagur remained fertile amazingly, and with it used it as a rally cry to assemble the strongest male warriors into her band to help rebuild and create another generation of strong warriors. But this did not last long, as a group of Turian peacekeeper forces invaded their land and killed her at the Battle of Canrum, wiping out yet another way for the Krogans to repopulate their forces. The Krogans did hit back, hunting down the peacekeeper forces, and was successful in killing them, but the damage had been done, and the Krogans were truly feeling the effects of the Genophage on their population. Canrum would be the last battleground for the Krogans, but with Shiagur killed by the Turians, the Krogan quickly realized their fate was sealed, and the Genophage had ruined all of their hopes of survival against the Turians and the Citadel forces. With this realization, the Krogans surrendered, and for the most part there was peace again, with the Council gaining back their planets and land. But some Krogans still had rage building within them, as many rogue warlords and insurgents refused to surrender, hitting the Turian forces where they could and retreating to rebuild for their future attacks. But they were far too weak to fight against the overwhelming forces and were shut down by Turian task forces in the end. Some Krogan remained, either accepting peace or vanishing into frontier systems, and with it became pirates. Almost a century passed since the war ended, and some Krogans out there in the system still tried to continue the fighting, with one famous Krogan pirate, Dalag Kran, coming out of hiding with a mercenary armada and attempting to capture the former Krogan gift world of Darnith. This battle did last longer than expected, with the forces holding out for 2 weeks, battering the planet with their fierce forces. But inevitably the Turian hierarchy swept in to finish the rebellion and finally ending it once and for all. In the end, the remaining Krogans returned back to their wasteland home planet of Tuchanka, setting up their small factions again and trying desperately to come up with a solution to their population crisis. The Turians, on the other hand, were massively respected by the Citadel Council, and with it were granted a seat on it, also becoming one of the most valuable assets of defense, which once again would become clear to humanity when they entered the fray. For a time, the people of the Citadel debated whether to remove the Krogan monument located within the Presidium. However, in the end, the Council declined to remove it, stating that it was a reminder that the Krogan were the reason they all survived the Rachni War. And even though they became a menace in the end, their efforts still needed remembering. Up until this point in time, the Krogans continued to live on, avoiding absolute extinction. It has been over 700 years since the Genophage, and because of their fate, the Krogan have become extremely fierce in combat, choosing who and where they attack after a lot of thought and planning, making sure their numbers are not affected within these attacks. There have been a few who have sought out trying to find a cure for this Genophage, but many problems have come with this. Some Krogans would go on to invest in companies such as Binary Helix to try and discover the cure, but Krogan scientists are in such a limited supply that they cannot get any research off the ground. And as well as that, other species do not appear too interested in helping the Krogan cause, meaning recruitment for this whole venture is flawed. Serving as maintenance workers and mercenaries, the Krogans still continue to live amongst other Citadel species. However, as mentioned before, it's only a matter of years before their species is gone for good. The Genophage would continue on for years until the Citadel Council, which would now include humanity, would find themselves in a situation where they desperately sought out help to fight against the Reaper forces that threatened all of existence. It would be down to the human commander known as Commander Shepard as to what they did about the Krogan situation and how they could use their forces in the fight. If Shepard were to choose this path, a single Solarian scientist known as Mordin Solus would go on to help Commander Shepard and their crew by travelling to Tuchanka and sacrificing himself to finally allow them to be coated in the cure for the Genophage, putting their two species' history to rest and giving them hope of rebuilding their societies once again, but only after the Reapers had been dealt with. But with the cure now being administered and the Krogans now being free from the Genophage, would they turn back into the force they were after the Rachni Wars? Mass breeding, creating warriors, and with it taking over land that wasn't theirs? Or will they respect humanity and the Solarian sacrifice and promise to keep it all in check and respect the colonies of others? Only time can truly tell. But in the end, like most things, life always seems to follow a set loop, repeating itself over and over again. And even then, Commander Shepard could shut down the cure before this even came to fruition. There are just too many variables to think about for the future of the Krogan species. But with all that said, this has been the tale of the Krogan Rebellions and how they saved the Citadel from the Rachni and turned into the aggressors themselves, only to be hit back with a disease that would put them in a near extinction event. And that is the story of the Krogan Rebellions and the events that led up to the Genophage and beyond. It's not the longest story in Mass Effect, but I hope it was enjoyable nonetheless. If you did enjoy this video, please do give it a like, leave a nice comment and subscribe if you haven't already. And why not check out my other Mass Effect videos in the playlist within the description. This game is packed full of great stories and I'd love to tell more if you guys really want to see them. If you really like this video, then why not become a Patreon member or YouTube channel member for early access to these videos, as well as them being completely ad-free. I also have a second channel for anyone that's a motorsport lover, where I talk about my karting career as well as some other sim races that I put on during the week, so check that out if you're interested in that sort of thing. And speaking of patrons, just a minute ago, I'd like to thank my supporters real quick. Big thanks to our small fish guys, our big fishes Christopher, Andrew, Last Persona User and Artocrem, our big shark Whale Such Gaming, and our huge megalodons Sinus, Jacob Garcia, Chernobyl Stalker, Shadow SGT and Ryan Everett. Also big shout out to our YouTube channel members, our wise ones Jambu and Fiery Italian. All your support means the world to me and means I can make these videos for you guys, so thank you all so much. But that is all for now. Thank you all for watching once again, and I shall see you all in the next one. Cheers.